Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne. And today's video is what your art medium says about you. I have noticed that there's some traits and sort of trends with people who gravitate towards certain art tools and art supplies, and I kind of just wanted to make a type video based on that. So first off, I'm going to talk about the graphite pencil user. Now everyone kind of starts with pencils, but for a lot of artists, I think they see pencils as sort of a first step. But for some people, they end up sticking with them and really enjoying doing these beautiful, elaborate sort of drawings with just graphite. These are the types of people who probably have a full set of pencils, like they have all the different hardnesses, the 2B, every single kind of different pencil. They probably use charcoal as well sometimes. And I think people like this are generally very neat and orderly. The reason for that is that in order to make a pencil drawing look really good, you have to be so delicate and so careful. Graphite smudges easily, so does charcoal, and so a lot of the pencil artists that I have seen are incredibly neat and incredibly they're very aware of where their hand is going and exactly how hard they want every stroke to be, and it creates these really beautiful and very difficult to make pieces. I think that a lot of graphite artists tend to dress kind of neatly. I also think they're very prone to repetitive stress injuries, unfortunately. A lot of graphite artists do stippling or just very, very careful applications of their graphite, and this causes them to put incredible strain on their wrists. I also find that a lot of graphite artists tend to put in tons and tons of detail, and this is also really hard on your wrist. I think that the stereotypical graphite artist is somebody who dresses kind of preppy, very clean aesthetics, and they probably have a really minimalist looking Instagram or something like that, and then their art is sort of overflowing with very delicate little details. I feel like a lot of graphite artists had, instead of the anime phase that a lot of artists go through, they had a drawing portraits of people they know phase. I think that that's kind of how you get started down this path, and it moved them away from cartooning. So yes, the typical graphite artist is someone who's very neat, meticulous, and very careful, as well as someone who takes a long time to finish their artwork because they're putting in so many little bits of detail and smoothing and just very careful. Next up is the crayon artist. Now, I think all of us associate crayons with being pretty young, and I think that that's a fair assumption. So for this sort of epitome of the crayon artist, I definitely wanted to make this character seem very young. I also think that not all kids necessarily gravitate towards crayons. I know for me, myself, I liked crayons, but I really preferred markers. I feel like if you're the type of artist who likes crayons, you are probably someone who's okay with a little chaos. Crayons are really difficult to get any sort of smooth texture with. It takes a lot of working and layers, and the cheaper your crayons, the harder that's going to be because of the higher wax content. So I feel like if you're someone who really enjoys drawing and coloring with crayons, you're someone who is not a over perfectionist. You're someone who really appreciates energy in art and color and using a lot of it. The crayon artist is really prolific. They make a lot of art and they tend to have a lot of fun. They're loud and gregarious. They love snacks, and they also love cute sort of aesthetics when it comes to clothes. I feel like they gravitate towards the colors like green and yellow, which are colors that I feel like a lot of other artists kind of avoid. Oranges is another good example of colors that, at least in their brighter format, you don't see being used a lot. But with the crayon artist, they're basically not afraid of any color. They love rainbows. I also feel like someone who uses crayons more than any other medium are probably people who really like to draw with shapes and are more likely to draw animals. Most artists prefer to draw people or perhaps landscapes or architecture. I feel like the crayon artists definitely gravitate towards animals and cartoon animals. Other things like flowers and individual parts of an exterior might also be something that they like to draw. But generally the crayon artist is just here to have a good time and make some cute art. Next up is the painter. Now, at first I was going to try to break these down into the different types of paint because the process of painting with like acrylic or gouache is very different than painting with oil, but I do feel like painters in general share a lot of traits with each other, so I'm going to try to combine them all into one. Personally, I am so intimidated by painters because I feel like they are incredibly talented and they just work in a way that is so different than the way that I am able to work. They think more in shapes and planes rather than lines, and they're definitely going to have a really good understanding of color theory and sort of building up and blending their own colors, which is something that a lot of other artists, I feel like it's not maybe the most natural thing in the world for them, especially if you're a digital artist and you're used to just picking whatever color you like. Getting into painting can be very difficult, but most painters, it becomes so natural to them that they know how to make the exact color that they're looking for. Very impressive. I feel like painters tend to wear more comfortable clothes, and I think that their work tends to be more tied in with how they're feeling. That's a bit of a stereotype, but I think it is true to a certain degree. I think painters are the type of people who can't help but let their emotions get into their work. And while I think that's kind of true for every artist, I think it's most true for a painter. They also are probably a bit more patient than a lot of other artists because they have to work in layers. So they might be a little bit more slow-paced and easygoing compared to other artists who are used to everything sort of being like set and ready to go all the time. Painters have to learn how to do like layers of paint, letting it dry and coming back to it the next day. I feel like they're more likely to edit their art many times just because of the nature of paint. And you might catch them accidentally drinking some paint water every once in a while because it's too difficult for them to always remember which one is their cup of iced coffee or tea or whatever, and which is their brush washing water. That is a very real danger for anyone who works with a medium where you are having to wash your brush, so keep your eye out for that, be careful. And yeah, generally I just think that painters are much more like they're soft, they're very thoughtful. They might be the type to read more like physical books and listen to vinyl. They might be more attracted to like older technologies, older entertainment. They might even be that type of person who's like, oh, I never watch TV, just because painting is kind of the old school version of art creation nowadays. And so if they're still happy to paint in the way that the masters have been painting for hundreds of years, it might sort of imply that they have those other interests as well. Next up is the digital artist. Now, digital artists are a different breed. I feel like a lot of professionals are digital artists now just because it is more efficient and it's faster, but digital also has quite a few drawbacks as well. I feel like digital artists are the most likely to look sort of thrashed upon when they're in the middle of their work. I think there's a certain elegance to people who've been working over like graphite or over a painting for a while, but digital artists, I feel like when they're sort of poring over their art for hours and hours over their tablet or their computer screen, they get more of a haunted, glassy-eyed sort of look about them that is harder to romanticize, I would just say. I think a lot of digital artists have a dependency on some sort of caffeinated beverage. It doesn't have to be coffee. It could be anything from energy drinks. I know a lot of digital artists who are really sort of hooked on Monster, and generally they look a little bit more grungy than a lot of other artists. Their work is probably way more like smooth and carefully defined than they themselves are. I find a lot of digital artists end up with hairstyles that are very like utilitarian, just sort of getting it out of their face as much as possible. And I think that a lot of digital artists end up wearing like artistic printed like hoodies and stuff. That ends up being kind of the uniform. Obviously, you don't have to worry about graphite or paint or anything getting on your sleeves, so you can kind of just wear whatever. and you will always catch a digital artist with one of those smudge guards on their hand. It's the one thing that really like gets them ready to draw, at least for me. I feel like even though like the smudge guard isn't actually doing that much, it obviously helps you with your, you know, running your hand over the tablet, but mostly it just like actually gets me thinking like, okay, I'm in front of the computer to work, not to like play a video game or something. I feel like it almost has that sort of like psychological element. And I think digital artists are also slightly more likely to have like a naturally colored hair. I don't know why. I guess maybe they're so used to having the choice of any color that they want, and not being limited, that maybe they apply that to their own, the design, I guess, of their own self. But yeah, I just gave her a little Control-Z hoodie, and the tablet posture. I think that's a huge issue for all artists, but especially for any artist that's crunched up in front of their tablet for a long time. And yeah, generally I just wanted to give her a very, very haunted, red-eyed look, because I feel like when you've been working in front of a computer having blue light blasted into your eyes for hours, that's how you end up looking. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what type of artist you are. I might do a part 2 if there's a bunch of other mediums that I didn't cover, which is probably the case. And let me know how accurate this was. If you're a painter, do you think you're someone who's a little spacey and you know, more patient and likes to wear comfy clothes, or was I totally off base? Definitely let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much to my beautiful patrons, including Tom the Chicken, It's Jamal, Kayla Grimes, Rodrigo, Neurocherry, Cully Halsey, Kubo, Moomilk, Alana the Artist, Rylan Parker, Raylan, Kadaria, Something Super, Deadly Nightshade Art, Maria Vasquez, Astral Fox Art, Middle Z, Lily Allure, The Expressive Poker Face, Morrissey Axolotl, Chris Draws, Kai Kizer, Subaki, Liliana Hammontree, Michael Lavalley, Cutie Pie, Rainwater Pearls, Ice Cream Pal, Lion, Nora Cornelison, Cola, Your Boy ST, JJ Jade, and of course, La Blah Blah Blah.